In the summer of 2003, an elderly man fell into a coma at a hospital in Jeddah. For decades, he had lived comfortably in a sunlit Saudi Arabian villa, maintaining a quiet routine of gym sessions and shopping trips. This was Idi Amin. While he spent his final years enjoying the quietude of the Red Sea coast, his name remained synonymous with the hundreds of thousands of his countrymen who never reached old age. Amnesty International estimates that Amin's regime was responsible for the deaths of at least 300,000 people. He oversaw a system of public executions and ethnic purges that decimated the nation he ruled. Yet one of history's most brutal dictators never faced a courtroom. To understand how he escaped accountability, we have to look past the man himself and toward the foreign powers that helped build his regime. The roots of the regime stretch back to the British Empire. When the British established the Uganda Protectorate, they created a country by drawing lines on a map, forcing together a patchwork of competing ethnic and religious groups that lacked any internal coherence. Within this colonial structure, a young Idi Amin rose through the ranks of the King's African Rifles. British officers favored him for his athletic prowess and military discipline, promoting him as quickly as was then allowed for an African soldier. By 1962, Amin's unit was sent to the border to intervene in a series of cattle raids. During the operation, Amin ordered his men to massacre scores of villagers. Under normal circumstances, the atrocity would have led to a court-martial. However, with Ugandan independence just months away, the British colonial governor, Sir Frederick Crawford, intervened to suppress the investigation, fearing a scandal would tarnish the army's reputation. The cover-up was successful. Instead of facing a trial, Amin entered the era of Ugandan independence as one of only 2 native commissioned officers in the entire country. Following independence, Prime Minister Milton Obote chose to keep Amin close. He utilized him as a deputy commander and a partner in a lucrative gold and ivory smuggling operation between the Congo and Uganda. While Obote used Amin to secure his own power, Amin was quietly building a loyalist base. He recruited thousands of troops from his own ethnic groups in the north, ensuring the military's primary loyalty was to him, not the state. In January 1971, while Obote was out of the country for a meeting in Singapore, Amin launched a military coup. He quickly secured the capital and the national radio stations, informing the public that he was seizing power to end Obote's corruption. In London and Tel Aviv, the response was immediate recognition. British and Israeli officials, wary of Obote's socialist policies, believed the former colonial officer would be easier to manage and would serve their interests in the region. In the context of the Cold War, Western governments prioritized finding an anti-communist partner over the long-term stability of the Ugandan government. Amin's cooperation with the West didn't last. In 1972, he ordered the expulsion of tens of thousands of Asian Ugandans. These families, who controlled nearly 90% of the country's trade, were given 90 days to leave everything behind. The departure of the business class triggered an immediate economic tailspin. Amin handed the seized companies to his military supporters, many of whom lacked the basic literacy or training required to manage them. Factories jammed, imports ceased, and inflation skyrocketed. As the economy collapsed, Amin turned to systematic violence to suppress the resulting unrest. Thousands of political rivals, lawyers, and religious leaders vanished. This included the Archbishop of the Church of Uganda, Janani Luwum, who was murdered after speaking out against the regime's brutality. By the mid-1970s, Amin's behavior grew increasingly erratic. Medical reports from the era indicate he was likely suffering from the advanced stages of syphilis, a condition that results in brain damage and dementia. As his Western support evaporated, Amin pivoted to Muammar Gaddafi in Libya and the Soviet Union. By promising to limit the rights of Christians and presenting himself as a committed Muslim, he secured the weapons and training needed to sustain his military state. This new alliance was on full display in 1976, when Amin facilitated the hijacking of an Air France flight to Entebbe airport. He provided the Palestinian and German hijackers with a base of operations, while they threatened to execute Jewish hostages. Amin survived the 1970s by exploiting a polarized world. As long as he remained useful to one side of the Cold War, He could count on a steady supply of arms to maintain his grip at home. The end came when Amin's own military began to fracture. In late 1978, facing mutinies in his southern ranks, Amin launched an unprovoked invasion into neighboring Tanzania to force his divided army to unite against a common enemy. The strategy failed. The Tanzanian People's Defense Force, joined by thousands of Ugandan exiles, launched a massive counteroffensive that pushed Amin's forces back across the border and deep into Ugandan territory. In April 1979, as enemy troops neared the capital, Amin abandoned his supporters and fled by helicopter. His 8-year reign was over. The military state Amin had spent a decade building proved fragile. Faced with a conventional army rather than unarmed civilians, his loyalist forces collapsed in weeks. Amin spent the rest of his life in exile. After a brief stay in Libya, he settled in Jeddah, where the Saudi government provided him with sanctuary and a luxury villa. There were no significant international calls for a trial. In 1989, when Amin attempted to fly back into Africa, the United States and other powers pressured the Saudi government to take him back into custody rather than allowing him to face prosecution in Uganda. Idi Amin was a dictator built by a colonial system and maintained through the cynical calculations of the Cold War. While he died peacefully in a hospital bed, the people of Uganda were left to navigate the wreckage of the nation he was helped to destroy.